So now it is my pleasure to introduce Mark Janas's Classical Corner.
Well, it would be totally inappropriate to do an evening with a little help from your friends without my getting a help from one of my friends. So this person, I'm sure many of you have heard him perform. Many of you have heard him perform. You may have been lucky enough to have heard him in different venues. For example, if over 10 years he did Mary Sunshine in Chicago here. He opened this latest rendition, this latest revival. And he's a wonderful artist across the board. I mean, jazz, pop, cabaret, and classical, which is what we're going to do now. So please welcome the immensely talented and charming David Sabella.
Thank you so much. So, isn't the food here amazing? It's really fantastic. Of course, I don't think I should have had the pizza before I sang. We're going to do some countertenor pieces. Does anybody know what countertenor is? Okay, some people do. Countertenor is, for those of you who don't know, the modern compatriot of the castrati without surgery.
Thank goodness.
Just making it clear, I'm fine.
Because
it all works.
Before they stopped these terrible surgeries, there was a saying about tenors. You know that the saying.
No.
There were four kinds of tenors. There was the countertenor who had no balls, which was true at the time, and then there was the the lyric tenor who had two balls or one ball, and then there was the tenor leggero had two balls, and then there was the dramatic tenor who had two balls but was standing on one of them.
That's great. One of the great castrati of the 17th century was known, much like Cher and Lady Gaga, as just one name, Senesino. Senesino, and Handel wrote many of his leading roles for Senesino. And we're gonna do one of them now. From Julius Caesar, the translation of this loosely is, "No flower of the meadow can compare to your lovely visage." And not only, and then he says that 27 times. Okay. Right. Let me get to the B section, and he says, "Not just one flower, but in you I see all the flowers of April forever."
And he said it 5 years short of 300 years ago.
Yeah. Here we go. This is Caesar's first looking at Cleopatra.
Il tuo bel volto Non ne si vada in pelo il fior nel prato, quant'è vago e gentile il tuo bel volto. Non ne si vada in bello il fior nel prato, quant'è vago e gentile il tuo bel volto. Non ne si va il fior nel prato, quant'è vago e gentile, quant'è vago e gentile il tuo bel volto, quant'è vago e gentile, quant'è vago e gentile. Il tuo bel volto, il tuo bel volto.
It's been a little while since I did that. Like about 20 years. I had the honor of being Julius Caesar in the first American production where all three parts originally written for castrati were done by men. Caesar, Ptolomeo, and Sesto, and I was Caesar. So that's from a few years ago. This next piece brings us into the 20th century. Countertenors do sing 20th century music. Thank you, that's my neighbor. Hi, Joe. Countertenors sing 20th century music right up until today, to be honest. I mean, after all, Michael Jackson was kind of a countertenor. And let's face it, right? All our pop sensations sing way up there. This is Benjamin Britten's opera, Midsummer Night's Dream, from the Shakespeare. Countertenors tend to play gods and kings, and Oberon is king of the fairies. Typecasting, I know. But in any case, if you know the plot of Midsummer Night's Dream, Oberon is plotting against his wife Titania, because Titania will not give him her little changeling boy as a present. So he's a Catholic king of the fairies. Anyway, he's upset about that. So he plots to have his little henchman Puck bring a flower to enchant her eyes so that she falls in love, literally, with an ass. And Puck screws this up entirely, as you know the plot of Midsummer Night's Dream, and that will be later. But this is when Oberon first directs Puck as to exactly what to do. This music is really freaking hard for my Janas, so let's get it on.
Welcome, wanderer. Hast thou the flower there? I'll streak her eyes and make her full of hateful fantasies, of fantasies. Take thou some of it, and seek through this grove a sweet Athenian ladies in love with a disdainful youth. Anoint his eyes, but do it when the next thing he espies may be the lady. Thou shalt know the man by the Athenian garments he hath on.
I have to say, this music even looks scary when you look at it. It looks scary.
So, thank you so much. Our closing number is not actually opera, but it is a Jerome Kern song. Now, how does a countertenor come to sing a Jerome Kern song? I will tell you. All the characters in Chicago, if you don't know this, are based upon, thank you, love, vaudevillian stars of the day. Roxy Hart is based on Sophie Tucker. Amos Hart is based on Bernie Williams, etc. And Mary Sunshine is based on Julian Eltinge. Who is Julian Eltinge? In 1914, he was the Oprah of the day. In 1914, he made $3,000 a week on Broadway.
Which I looked up, and that's $73,000 a week plus in today's money.
Julian Eltinge was internationally famous. He had a makeup line, he had a national magazine, he had a cigar line. He really was the Oprah.
And a theater. Tell them about the theater.
Yeah, the theater. Okay. For those of you who've been in New York long enough, like I have, you remember that when Disney came and redid 42nd Street, they took one of the theaters that was on the corner of 42nd and 8th and picked it up and moved it into the block. Remember that?
Yes.
That was the Julian Eltinge Theater, and still is. And it is now the home of the AMC Empire Movie Theater. And if you walk into that theater, the original proscenium ensconces what's now the box office. And above the proscenium is a fresco of 3 beautiful women. And those 3 beautiful women are all Julian Eltinge in his 3 most famous roles. Because Julian Eltinge always played the leading man and the leading female in his shows. And somehow the plots were contrived that they never had to be on stage. And who wrote for him was Irving Berlin and Jerome Kern, Percy Wenrich, etc. All these great, famous, wonderful writers. So we're going to do a song that was in Elton's play, Cousin Lucy. And he plays the mother of the daughter of the girl that he, as a man, wants to marry. So this is him convincing himself kind of not to marry the girl. And to be careful, beware, because women have those come hither eyes.
Now listen, it's a secret, don't repeat it. Don't you tell a soul, not a single soul, among a lot of books. I found a book on looks, one that tells you what to do when eyes so true. Gray or blue, smile on you. Now listen. listen, now listen to the many, many, many strange things any little girl can do. With that, come here, the look in her eyes that signifies I kind of like you. Each precious little dear at 16 starts out on her wild career of breaking hearts. With that, come here, the look in her eyes, and when she sighs, I'm oh so lonely. Men fall like autumn leaves, but still each one believes the look that lies and lies and lies in those come here eyes. Take warning, if you've met her, just forget her. Let her keep the rings and the other things, for if you dare to wait, or even hesitate, you'll find every little bit that honey brings while she sings. Oh, so stings. Take warning, she'll never let you get untangled from her apron strings. With that, come here, the look in her eyes that signifies I kind of like you. Each precious little dear at 16 starts out on her wild career of breaking the heart. With that, come here, the look in her eyes, and when she sighs, I'm oh so lonely. Men fall like autumn leaves, but still each one believes the look that lies and lies and lies in those come here.
Thank you, Sabella.
Thank you all.
That's Sabella. That's Janas.
Thanks, David.